Hi, I'm Tom at Four Wheel Campers, of course, and we're sitting here in the service bay in the factory at Four Wheel Campers. What we're going to be doing today is a description of what the installation process is for mounting a camper on one of the trucks using our Four Wheel Campers, of course. So there's two essential elements to preparing to install for the camper installation. One, of course, is installing eye bolts in the bed of the truck with a typical installation, and the electrical installation. Electrical installation involves hooking up to the main battery in the truck and then running a line underneath the truck and then up into the sidewall of the bed of the truck so you can supply power to the camper from the battery in the truck. The first thing we'll talk about this afternoon is installing the eye bolts. Now the eye bolts, I'm going to come toward the camera a little bit here. The eye bolts are designed to have turnbuckles attached to them. The eye bolt isn't just your typical eye bolt that you'd buy at the hardware store. This is actually a forged steel eye bolt with a shoulder and of course threaded. These are very strong because they're forged. Typical eye bolts that you purchase at the hardware store are literally a piece of wire bent around to make an eye. Wire in the sense that it's pretty darn thick, but still wire. Problem with it is that since it's a wound around kind of an affair, it can open up with any kind of pressure. The beauty of the forged eye bolt is that it's much stronger. It's forged in one piece, machined with the threads. You're good to go. It's very strong. It's going to last for as long as you're going to need it to. So when the eye bolt is installed in the bed of the truck, the hole is drilled. We'll be pointing that out in just a moment. The hole is drilled, fender washer installed on the eye bolt inserted through the hole in the bed of the truck, fender washer underneath, and then a nylon insert lock nut is used underneath to hold everything together so that you've got eye bolt, fender washer, bed of the truck, fender washer, and the nut underneath to secure it in place. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk over to the bed of the truck and give you a few ideas on what that's all about too. So come on with me here. The idea about installing the eye bolts in the bed of the truck is that you got four corners of the camper. That means you've got four eye bolts. Two in the front, two in the back, and the eye bolts are installed in such a way that you have opposing forces. By opposing forces, what we mean is that the front turnbuckle pulls forward, the rear turnbuckle pulls back. So you pull the camper down to keep it in place. The alternative to this, which isn't used frequently but it can be done, is that the forward pulls back, the back pulls forward, and you hunker it down like so. Concept is that instead of turnbuckles going straight up and down, they have to pull outward like this to center, front and back, and then the eye bolts are installed as far to the side of the bed of the truck as possible so that when you're looking at side to side, you have a natural centering action also. So the left side pulls to the left, the right side pulls to the right. Again, a natural centering action. So you have natural centering side to side, and you have centering front to back as well. This is extremely important because if you don't have enough angle on the turnbuckles holding the camper down, the camper will have a tendency to want to wander, either front and back or side to side. It's extremely important. It's extremely important also. The concept of the turnbuckle is that the turnbuckle holds the camper tight in the truck. You have to have adequate tension to make sure that the turnbuckles are holding the camper in place. As soon as the turnbuckles start to loosen up, camper wants to start to bounce, wants to start to wander, then you can have a problem. You can have a failure of the eye nuts located in the camper frame, or the camper floor pack, excuse me, and you can have a catastrophic effect where the camper could come off the truck. Obviously you don't want that. We don't want it either. So let's talk a little bit more about where that eye bolt's going to go in the bed of the truck. Right now this is a new truck that we're installing a camper on. Now the eye bolt to the rear is installed just aft, or to the rear of the wheel well here. You'll notice it's located right here. And in this particular case, the eye bolt is oriented so that it comes at an angle over to where the eye nut is located in the base of the camper. So the eye bolt here is located as close to the wall as reasonably possible. And in the front, eye bolt is located forward and as far out as possible also. For each individual truck, the measurements here may vary somewhat. So please call our service department to get the exact location of where this eye bolt should be located fore and aft. Opposing forces, please don't forget it. It's extremely important. Now we talked about the eye bolts. Of course you have to have an electrical connection as well. So the electrical connection runs from under the bonnet, from under the hood of the truck, back underneath the truck, and into the sidewall of the bed of the truck. Now how do you do that? Well, with the installation kit, we send along the electrical connections. Electrical connections look like this. This particular item here with the wires, this is a receptacle here. And the receptacle is made in a format so that the plug is inserted into the receptacle. The cap here comes down and locks it in place. There's a little locking ear here, a little dog as they call it. And that comes down once the plug is inserted and goes into the receptacle here. Now this receptacle is located right over here. In most cases, this is where you'll be installing the receptacle. That's this little guy here with the little flap on it. Okay? Hole is drilled in the sidewall of the bed of the truck. Wires go in, and then this is screwed into sidewall of the bed of the truck. Pretty simple installation. There's 3 wires. Depending upon your particular situation, you may use only 2 or you may use all 3. If you have a wide camper that has marker lights, you'll be using all 3 wires. One that is a positive for the 12 volts, one that is a negative or an earth, and one for the marker lights. If you have a narrower camper that does not have marker lights, you'll only be using 2 of the leads here. These are color coded. There's directions that come along with the package to tell you how to do it. We also have instructions online as well. Receptacle. Now on the camper itself, you've got the plug. The plug is installed to the wiring of the camper. Camper comes in such a way that we don't actually install the plug. We send the plug along for you to install depending upon your particular situation. Some people don't use this plug. Most people do, because not only is it very durable, but it's a darn good plug. So the plug is installed on the wiring from the camper. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So that takes care of the actual bed of the truck itself. We talked about the eye bolts. We talked about installing the receptacle in the bed of the truck. Now remember I mentioned that in most cases, the receptacle is going to be installed on the left side of the truck. Some cases, depending upon the way the camper is wired for your particular camper, it might be on the right side of the truck. Either way is fine. Doesn't make any difference. Whatever works best for your particular situation. That's it. Now the electrical installation starts up in the engine compartment, under the bonnet, under the hood. And what we do is we install connections to the battery in the engine compartment. Of course, your terminal and a connection to the negative terminal of the earth. What we do with that is we use a typical jacketed wire that looks much like this. Yeah, the truck's moving, it's okay. And we use a jacketed wire. This is called brake cable. And the brake cable is essentially a vinyl sheath on a two-conductor wire. Two-conductor wire is set up so that the black is installed to the negative, or the earth. The white is installed to the positive. This is contradictory to household or residential wiring in America. Offshore, in other countries, you're using blue and you're using brown. But for our purposes here, for the installation on the truck, black is your negative and white is your positive. They're actually doing an install on this truck, so bear with us, please. So the ring terminals are installed. Now they're really working on it. Ring terminals are installed on the ends of the wire here, installed onto the terminals of the battery. Now, it's really important that what's called a thermal circuit breaker is installed on the firewall or the sidewall of the engine compartment. The object of this is that if for some reason there is a short circuit between the engine compartment and the connection in the sidewall of the bed of the truck, thermal breaker will break the connection so that you don't have a fire hazard. This is a 30 ampere thermal breaker. It's installed in such a way that there is a copper terminal and there is a silver terminal. There'll be more directions on this later on how to install this as far as which wire goes to which. Remember, it's a positive wire. A positive wire is installed to one side, and then a positive wire installed to the other side, which then goes back to the bed of the truck. The negative, or the earth, bypasses this. You do not need to install a negative to a thermal breaker, just to the positive side. Now the thermal breaker, as you can see on this particular truck, is located right here. So it's hard to see from the camera angle here. Battery is here, and then from the positive side of the battery, come to the thermal breaker, and then from the thermal breaker, it goes onward toward the bed of the truck. The brake cable here, the wiring is cut so that long enough, the negative goes all the way, the negative goes all the way over to the battery. Positive comes up to meet the thermal breaker. It's cut, and then the remaining piece is going from the other side of the thermal breaker over to the positive side of the battery.